My brother smirked as he handed back my Christmas gift unopened and said, "We're hosting an exclusive black tie gala this year, and frankly, having a middle-class peasant like you there ruins the aesthetic." His wife nodded in agreement while adjusting her designer bracelet. What my brother didn't realise was that the high-end penthouse holding his gala, his kids' elite private school tuition, and even the lease on that shiny Porsche in his driveway weren't paid for by his failing business. They were funded entirely by me for 4 straight years through an anonymous family trust. I didn't yell, I didn't argue. I simply walked back to my car, pulled out my phone, and made one call to my financial manager. Cancel every wire transfer, terminate the lease, and freeze the trust immediately. He wanted a gala for the elites. I was about to show him what happens when the real fun pulls the plug. My name is Hannah Turner. I'm 33 years old, and if you saw me walking down the street in my plain navy sweater and simple jeans, you'd probably assume I was an average corporate employee making a modest living. I've always preferred keeping a low profile. What my family didn't know was that 6 years ago, I founded a software company that took off beyond my wildest dreams, making me financially independent for life. It was 2 days before Christmas when I drove over to my brother Julian's high-rise penthouse in downtown. I was carrying a bag of carefully chosen, thoughtful gifts for his kids, hoping we could share a nice family moment. But the second his wife, Evelyn, opened the door, her eyes scanned my simple outfit with obvious disdain, Julian stepped out into the foyer, adjusting his expensive silk tie. Instead of inviting me inside, he stood in the doorway, blocking my path. When I handed him the gift bag, he didn't even look inside. He simply placed it on the side table, smirked, and handed it right back to me. "Hannah, we need to be honest with you," Julian said, his voice dripping with condescension. "Evelyn and I are hosting an exclusive black tie Christmas gala here tonight with some of the city's top investors. Frankly, having a middle-class peasant like you walking around in off-the-rack clothes ruins the aesthetic. It's better if you don't come." Evelyn chuckled, adjusting her diamond bracelet. I stood there in silence, clutching my car keys. They truly believed I was a struggling sister leeching off their world. I took a deep breath, took the gift bag back, and turned around without saying a single word. 4 years ago, Julian's life was falling apart. His first business venture had completely collapsed, leaving him drowning in debt and on the verge of losing everything. He came to me sobbing, terrified that his wife and children would end up on the street. I loved my brother, so I stepped in. But knowing his fragile ego, I didn't want him to feel like he was living on my charity. Through my lawyer, I set up an anonymous family trust. The story we fed Julian was that a distant wealthy relative had established a private fund to support our family line. Every single month for 4 years, that trust quietly covered his high-end penthouse rent, his kids' private school tuition, and even the lease on Evelyn's shiny new Porsche. Instead of using this lifeline to build genuine stability, Julian used my money to construct a hollow fantasy. He bought custom suits, threw extravagant parties, and rebranded himself as a self-made elite entrepreneur. Over time, the money didn't make him grateful, it made him arrogant. He and Evelyn genuinely started believing they belonged to a higher social class. Because I chose to live modestly and never bragged about my tech company's success, they treated me like a second-class citizen in my own family. They made subtle jabs at my clothes, made fun of my practical car, and talked down to me at every holiday dinner. I had tolerated their snobbery for 4 years out of love for my nieces. But standing in that hallway, being called a peasant by the very man whose entire lifestyle was built on my hidden generosity, something inside me finally snapped. I walked out of the apartment complex into the crisp winter air and got into my car. My heart was pounding, but I wasn't crying. For 4 years, I had enabled a monster under the delusion that I was protecting my family. I had paid millions of dollars to build a golden pedestal for a man who just used it to look down on me and call me a peasant. Snorts. It was time to tear that pedestal down. I took a deep breath, pulled out my phone and called Arthur, my family trust administrator and wealth manager. He answered on the second ring. "Hannah, good evening. Merry Christmas Eve," Arthur said warmly. I said, my voice cold and steady. "I need you to execute an immediate operational freeze on the Turner Family Trust." There was a brief pause on the line. "Are you sure, Hannah? That trust covers your brother's penthouse lease, the kids' tuition, and his corporate credit line." "I am completely sure," I replied. "Cancel every pending wire transfer for the penthouse rent and event expenses. terminate the auto lease on the Porsche immediately and notify the repossession agency that payments have ceased. Revoke all corporate credit cards linked to the fund effective right now, not tomorrow, tonight. Arthur didn't push back. He knew the terms of the trust better than anyone. I had full unquestioned authority over every penny. Consider it done, Hannah. The cards will decline within 10 minutes and the lease cancellation notices will hit his email shortly. Thank you, Arthur, I said, setting my phone on the passenger seat. I started the engine and smiled. Julian wanted a gala for the true elites. He was about to find out what happens when the real elite stops paying the bills. By 8 o'clock that evening, Julian's lavish black tie gala was in full swing. High-profile investors, city socialites, and local influencers filled the grand living room of the downtown penthouse. Crystal chandeliers glittered, a live string quartet played smoothly in the corner, and waiters in crisp tuxedos carried silver trays loaded with fine champagne and beluga caviar. Julian walked through the crowd with an expensive cigar in hand, boasting about his latest fictitious business expansion, while Evelyn proudly showed off her diamond necklace to a group of wealthy wives. They were reveling in the illusion of their own nobility, completely unaware that the foundation beneath them had already collapsed. The first crack in their perfect evening appeared right outside the building. Down in the valet driveway, 2 heavy tow trucks pulled up beside Evelyn's sleek white Porsche. The repossession team presented immediate termination papers to the building manager. Within minutes, in full view of arriving high society guests, the luxury sports car was hoisted onto the back of the flatbed truck and hauled away for defaulted lease payments. Inside, the situation disintegrated even faster. The head caterer walked up to Julian holding a credit card terminal with an error message flashing on the screen. "Sir, I'm sorry to disturb you, but your corporate card was just declined for the catering balance." Julian laughed nervously, waving his hand dismissively. "Nonsense. That's an unlimited platinum line. Try it again." The caterer swiped it again, then tried the backup card. Both flashed red with the same message: account terminated. Whispers began to ripple through the room as guests noticed the growing commotion near the bar. Julian's face flushed bright red as he pulled out his phone, desperately trying to log into his banking portal, only to find every single account locked. My phone began buzzing frantically in my lap. Julian's name flashed across the screen 5 times in a row, followed by a barrage of panicked text messages. "Hannah, pick up. The bank made a mistake. Our cards are declined and they're towing the car. Did you do something? Pick up now." I didn't answer. Instead, I drove back to the penthouse, parked my modest car near the entrance, and walked into the lobby carrying a sleek leather folder containing the official trust dissolution documents. When I stepped out of the elevator onto the penthouse floor, the atmosphere was utter chaos. Snort's guests were gathered in hushed, awkward circles, watching Julian argue heatedly with the lead caterer, who was threatening to call the police over the unpaid bill. Evelyn stood nearby, her mascara smudged, frantically trying to explain to her friends why her Porsche had just been towed from the driveway. The moment Julian spotted me in my plain navy sweater, his eyes blazed with fury. He stormed across the room toward me. "Hannah, what the hell is going on? Did you tamper with the family trust? You need to fix this right now before you ruin my reputation in front of these people." I stood in the centre of the glittering room, completely unbothered by his rage. "I didn't ruin your reputation, Julian. You built a fake one." I opened the folder and handed him the top document. "Read it." His hands trembled as his eyes scanned the official header. Turner Family Trust, sole beneficiary and donor, Hannah Turner. Snorts. "There was no wealthy distant relative," I said, my voice echoing clearly across the silent room. "Every dollar that paid for this penthouse, your kids' elite tuition, your suits, and that Porsche came directly from my tech company for the last 4 years. I secretly funded your entire life because I thought I was saving my brother. But today you made it clear that a peasant like me doesn't belong in your world, so I took my money back." The silence in the room was deafening. Every eye was locked on Julian as the colour completely drained from his face. Snorts. The investors and high society couples he had been bragging to all night began exchanging uncomfortable looks. One by one, guests started making quiet excuses, grabbing their coats and heading for the elevator, eager to escape the humiliating exposure of Julian's fake wealth. Evelyn rushed over, grabbing my arm with tears streaming down her face. Her arrogant composure was entirely gone, replaced by pure panic. "Hannah, please. You can't do this to us. We're family. It was just a stupid joke earlier. We didn't mean anything by it. Think about your nieces. How are they supposed to stay in their school? Julian dropped the documents onto the floor, his pride completely shattered. He fell to his knees in front of me, sobbing openly. Hannah, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please, just unfreeze the corporate card so I can pay the caterer tonight. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't ruin me like this. I looked down at my brother, the same man who just hours ago handed back my Christmas gifts and sneered that I was too poor to be in his presence. There was no joy in seeing him like this, only a quiet, resolute sense of justice. My nieces will be fine because I will pay their tuition directly through a restricted school account, I said coldly, stepping back from Evelyn's grip. But as for the penthouse, the cars, the luxury suits, and your fake lifestyle, you are on your own. I am done enabling your delusion. I handed Julian the final legal termination notice, turned my back on his desperate cries, and walked out of the penthouse forever. It's been 6 months since that Christmas Eve night. Julian had to break his penthouse lease and move his family into a modest 2-bedroom rental on the outskirts of town. He finally took a mid-level sales job to pay off his mounting debts, while Evelyn sold off most of her designer bags and jewellery online just to cover their basic expenses. For the first time in his life, my brother is learning what it actually means to work for his own keep. As for me, cutting off that toxic dynamic gave me a peace of mind I hadn't felt in years. I continue to run my software company, living quietly in my comfortable home, surrounded by people who value me for who I am, not what's in my bank account. True strength isn't about flaunting luxury or looking down on others. It's about knowing your worth and having the courage to walk away when people take your generosity for weakness. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have given him another chance, or would you have pulled the plug like I did? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next